You've got to have a logo device that's instantly recognisable, easily replicated and easily communicated. That, for us, is the Everton crest. We started months and months ago on this process. We sat down with the designers, asked them as Evertonians and people that work day in, day out with the club and its various devices as to what would you do if you had the opportunity. It was then sit down with various fan entities, whether that was supporters clubs, fans forums, representatives of shareholders, corporate sales, memberships, as well as our retail partners, Nike, Kitbag, and indeed some of our other club partners.
When the first images were portrayed to us, obviously it was a very modern looking crest, very much different from the current one. But I think with the information that was supplied to us, that sort of won people over an awful lot more when you could see the thing physically, touch it and hold it. And the crest is purely a visual representation of what we are as a football club.
There's a simplicity to it that we endeavoured to achieve right from the word go. It recognises, I think, very importantly, the history of the club and the retention of the 1878. The lack of containment for the various elements of the crest has been the main problem. There are other technical issues regarding the faded colours behind the tower and the laurels, and I think that the realisation is now that it's easier to reproduce and get consistency if it is all contained within a single unit, so people cannot physically chop bits off in error or on purpose to make things easier for themselves.
Across the course of our history, there's been 9 iterations of the crest on the club shirt, but it's which elements of that did we feel was important. We felt that the name was important in the ever-increasing global expansion of football. The dates are important, that's where we're from, and the design of the shield, again, had to be indicative of what we'd done in the past. We couldn't move it too far apace. So it was a long process that we went through to make sure that we were doing the right thing, we were doing it at the right time and incorporating the right elements.
We looked at all the crests throughout Everton's history, but we predominantly focused on Theo Kelly's crest design, which first featured the tower. It originally had the railings going round the tower, which was then removed. So we focused on the Theo Kelly illustration, which was more of an accurate portrayal of that. With the new crest, it emulates the brickwork more accurately, and it's a more modern graphical representation of the tower.
We were conscious of keeping it in proportion, but also making sure that the elements which we needed to bring out were brought to the fore, and it was a real balancing act of getting all these elements together and making the work as a whole logo rather than just individual pieces. We spent probably an hour presenting to the players, and they were really enthusiastic, not just about the new logo, but about the history behind the logo, particularly the tower. We needed to come up with something that would work on both kit and web and digital and on all the other touch points that it gets used on.
I love it. I think it turned out better than I expected it to. It really encompasses everything that this club is about. Really modernized the badge and the crest, and I for one, really like it.
Obviously they decided to change it. I think they've done a fantastic job. I think it's nice and clean. It's got all elements of the history of this fantastic club, and hopefully going forward it can prove to be a crest that everyone obviously falls in love with.
Once you actually have a look back at the history and see how the crest developed over the last 100 years, you see that we're moving with the history of the club and changing the crest and following the tradition and the pattern.
What this next evolution does is simplifies it. It does move it forward, it's bold, it's forward thinking, but it doesn't ignore our sense of history, it doesn't ignore our tradition, and it doesn't ignore our roots.